It is January 3rd, 2025. Happy New Year to everyone. Last night, the Warriors played the 76ers in San Francisco, and it was a great game. We're going to talk about it. So the Warriors needed a win in this game. They were 4 and 13 in the last 17 games, and including a ton of heartbreakers the past couple of weeks. Games where they lost when it was within like 5 or 10 points that they should have won. And those are especially tough even after or because got off to such a good start. They were top of the West early on in the season. So Warriors are looking for a much needed win. I was really excited to watch the 76ers as well. I just wanted to observe. I hadn't really watched a full game of theirs, but I've been following their narrative about, they had been underperforming. I was excited to see how Embiid looked, to see what Paul George really looked like, and then Tyrese is like one of the most exciting players to watch in my opinion. Unfortunately, no Jared McCain, but the German in me has felt the Schadenfreude for the Sixers' lack of success. So I was really cool with the Warriors getting a win and the 76ers getting a loss. So I was excited to watch. We'll start with, this was a great game for the Warriors overall. They got out to a big first quarter lead. I think it was 35 to 19. And I am proud to say that they never looked back after that. There's been a couple of times where the Warriors get leads, but then they let the other team come back and sometimes end up losing those games. But they never let the Sixers come back. And that was really a good sign for me. And the way they got off to that good lead is they got really hot from three right away. So Steph hit the first one, and then Schroeder hit two. Moses Moody hit one as well. I believe there's someone else, but they were putting up 3 pointers and they were going in. And then defensively, they were making it tougher on PG and Embiid when they would post up down low. They would send a double. It would just force players like Yabusele, and I think they had a couple rotation players missing. So there were some players in there that I didn't recognize. So I think the Warriors' tactic was let's make someone else beat us, someone who might not be completely ready for it. So playing good D and hitting shots. And then the other element that led to the Warriors' success early was they had great ball distribution. At one point, they had 27 assists on 32 makes, which is a really great sign for them. And you can tell, like in these games, when the Warriors don't pass the ball and don't have that movement, their offense is stuck and they don't know what to do, or they don't score enough to keep up. But when they're moving and passing like this, they can put up points with anybody. So that was the reason for like their big start. Um, and I want to get into actually before we get into Steph's big game, there's two players that stood out for me on the Warriors and one on the Sixers. Um, TJD, Trace Jackson Davis, one of my favorite centers, one of my favorite Warriors now. I got to show him some love. I think he looks like Ross from Friends, which was always funny to me. He had a dunk on Embiid, which I was super proud of him for because Embiid's the reigning MVP, and TJD's a second-year player, but he just doesn't seem afraid. And he went up strong and got a dunk on him, which I thought was really cool. And then again, he was displaying his knack for passing. He and Andrew Wiggins connected for a backdoor. He was looking this way and then just slotted it through with the left hand that way. And that was two easy points right there. The one thing that I think he needs to get better at is his free throws. He does miss a few more. I don't know what his percentage is, but he misses a few more than you would expect with someone with as good of a touch as he has. I hope he stays on the Warriors for a long time. We'll see what happens. Dennis Schroeder also made his mark immediately on this game. Two 3-pointers right off the bat, and that was part of the Warriors' flurry. I really like him as a player, just in general, and for this team. And I think the rest of the team does as well. He just does a few things defensively where he's just a pest. And, some players might not go the extra distance or display that effort or that even that joy of annoying the other team. But he does that, and sometimes he gets away with things that end up becoming really great plays for the Warriors. Like I think it was at the end of the half, he got a steal as the Sixers were in like a half court setting, and he did go up for a layup and miss it. But the fact that he like disrupted their last possession and even got a shot for the Warriors was great. So yeah, I think the team really likes him. I mean, I'm seeing Draymond give him high fives, and it seems like they are getting into it. Then I hope he stays on the team as well. I know the Warriors are likely going to be active before the trade deadline, and he's an attractive piece. So we'll see if he sticks around. But I love him for this team. And then the Sixer that stood out to me was Tyrese. He actually didn't have an incredible game, but there's always just a few plays when I watch him where I don't think anyone moves as well as him. If I could compare someone to him, it might be Donovan Mitchell, but Tyrese is just so good at creating space laterally and switching direction incredibly fast. Um, he can do that, and then when he goes up into the air, he has such good touch. Like he can jump from damn near the free throw line, going like parallel to where the basket is, and still be able to put a floater up and have it drop in. And just as a former player and any other players know, like when you're moving that quickly, it's so hard to get that floater and that shot to drop in perfectly like that. So he has just such a great combination of dynamic movement and then also touch around the basket. And this didn't happen this game, but a few games ago when the Sixers played the Celtics, it might have been on Christmas actually. He did some crazy like your pick and roll, and then came down into below the 3-point line, and then like step back super far left to where Derek White, who was supposed to be guarding him, couldn't even contest a shot. And that play has stuck with me since then. So I was really excited to see Tyrese. All right, moving on to Steph's game. A historic game for Steph. He went 8 for 8 on his threes this game. And he said after the game in the interview that he wanted to bring more joy into the game. So on his first make, he like over celebrated, and that must have worked because it got the crowd into it. I think it made the team have a lot of play with a lot more joy. You could see like when Schroeder hit his three, that he was doing some funny celebration. But Steph really set the tone. It was interesting though because he wasn't shooting high volume. And after he hit the first shot, I thought, oh, he might like keep going. But he wasn't really putting up a bunch of shots, which was made me a little bit nervous in the beginning because I had a parlay where I took the over on his points for this game. But then after the first shot that he took and made, the Sixers were playing pretty tight defense on him and forcing him to be more of a playmaker, especially in pick and roll type situations. But then, yeah, as so he became more of a playmaker. That there was one play in transition where he's by the 3-point line, Sixers come out to him, and he goes into the lane, and then I think it was Wiggins or Kuminga was streaking in from the other side, and Steph just drops it down without looking, and before the play's even over, he has his finger in the air, and it was just you could tell he was feeling himself, and he was feeling good, and I think that translates to later in the game. So with 5 minutes to go in the third quarter, there was I don't want to say it was a broken play, but there was a play where the Warriors passed up a few shots. Someone got the ball in the corner. It looked like they had an open shot, and Steph is all the way on the other side of the court on the opposite wing. And then that player, I forgot who it was, but he decides to swing it. Buddy Hield gets it, and he goes into a pick and roll. It looked like he had an open mid-range shot where he actually kind of fumbled the ball just a little bit. And so his next best option was, oh, find Steph out there. Shot clock running down. Steph said, hey, this is my kind of shot. He said, no hesitation, puts it up, and then it goes in. For Steph, he has that microwave element where it takes him next to nothing, no time to get hot. So the next play, Steph comes down in transition, and I don't know what the Sixers are doing, but I always think back to that Kevin Durant line where he says, if I see their heels are inside the three-point line, I'm putting it up. And Steph puts it up, and he ends up banking in the shot, which is really puzzled me or fascinated me for a bit because when you shoot it, if it's gonna bank in, the angle has to be off center. And for someone as good as Steph is as shooting to miss by that much to have it bank in was just still wrapping my head around it clearly. But he when you're such a good shooter, sometimes it's you get lucky as well. But that was I think he was up to 4 or 5 threes at that point. Um, and then the next play down, he has the ball on the left wing, and Wiggins is in the corner. He just has it in one hand, just like a scoop one hand pass through across the whole court, through a couple defenders, right into the shooting pocket of Wiggins, who makes a three. And that was just a beautiful assist to cap off his little flurry there. And then the last his seventh and eighth threes were also classic Steph threes. The first one was just really deep, kind of central in the court. I don't know why anyone leaves him open, even if he's deep. Like he practices that all the time. And then the last one was another pull up in transition, and it was just a great Steph game. Super efficient. He did hit his points over, so I was happy about that. And then one other thing that I was going into this game thinking about was what would Paul George look like? PG used to be one of my favorite players back to when he was on Indiana, like battling going toe to toe with LeBron James, and he had that defensive, gritty mentality and play style with a really feathery offensive game, but also like can bring the intensity and the like he could slam it down and the grittiness with anybody. And so I was wanted to see, well, what is he going to look like this year? Because his numbers were down, and he still had um, some of the shot making, but I don't think he instills that fear in other teams anymore, and definitely not defensively. I think maybe because he's the third option that he's not getting the touches maybe to really even get hot or like get really get into a groove or to a rhythm. And I felt that he was displaying some odd body language sometimes. Like there was a play where I think Tyrese didn't swing it to him initially. And I saw Paul just like his shoulders drop. And then he ended up getting the ball and then passing it over to the Martin brother on that team. But I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing where I don't know if he's really happy in that position, even though he knew that's what it was going to be like coming in. But and also I don't want to judge anyone and their like motivation or their intensity through a TV screen, but I was slightly disappointed, I guess, but also I think he's taken the easy way out a few times and he just doesn't always display that like killer mentality. So yeah, I'm fine with them not winning that game. And then there was just a few funny moments that I think deserve to be touched on here. Is the first one after Steph banked in his three and then made that pass to Wiggins. There was a timeout or substitution, and Dennis Schroeder was supposed to come in for Steph, but then Steph told Schroeder, "No, I'm not coming out." And then Schroeder goes back to Steve Kerr, and he's like, "Steph said he's not coming out." And then Kerr said, "Okay, if he misses the next shot, then I'm blaming you." I don't know what that even means, but um, needless to say, Steph made the next shot, and everything was fine. And it just I think was another vibe builder for that team on that night. And then for anyone who watched the game, Draymond had hit a couple had he made I think one or two threes. Um, but Joel Embiid was clearly told by Nick Nurse not to guard Draymond. But if someone tells you not to guard him, you're usually still standing between him and the basket, just like maybe 8 or 10 feet deep. But Joel was on the complete other side of the key, and Dre has an open shot on this side, and Joel's not even looking at him. And I'm thinking, what is the benefit of Joel sitting on this side of the court, where it feels like he's just in no man's land and he's not affecting anything. At least if you're playing defense sagging off on that side, you are between them and the basket. And I don't know, it was just something I had never seen before, and I thought it was funny. It was also funny because Dre made that and starts talking smack to the Sixers bench, and then he missed the next two. But what are you gonna do? Yeah, overall, this was a really fun game to watch. Historic game for Steph. He had never taken 8 threes without missing one before, so he got to 8, making all of them. The Warriors got a convincing win. The Sixers get yet another loss, and I'm wondering and hoping if that the Warriors can build some momentum off this game, and we'll see what happens.